And get started. Hi, Mary. Oh, well, I missed you all yesterday. Yesterday was good morning, Judy. I was in an event yesterday. Um, last week was kind of uh, things kept getting out of control, and I had planned every year I do this event called the American Birkebeiner. Um, it's a cross country ski race, and when you finish, they give you these completion pins. So that's what I was out doing. It had originally been scheduled for Wednesday, so I had all my meetings and everything planned for Wednesday, but they were having an issue with snow, and, they had a forecast that said overnight on Wednesday night they might get some snow, so they pushed it from Wednesday to Thursday. Here's the pin you get. Can you see that? Can't really see it. You get a finisher's pin. Am I holding it up right side up? Yeah, it's a finisher's pin. So that was my 23rd American Birkebeiner. It's a 50-kilometer ski race in Hayward. And it's been, I mean, every single year I do this, every single year it kind of stresses me out. My family kind of teases me about it. But I think it's a good thing to do because, it's the best thing you can do when you're stressed out. And I always like to kind of get back to this for everybody. We're all under this enormous stress right now. Your weirdo friend referred to it, it's narcissistic abuse on scale. That's what fascism is. And so constantly we're subjected to that tidal wave of lies and all of these things are spinning out of control. And it's designed to activate your fear and it's designed to activate your worry. And it's bad for our health to just constantly endure this, like we've been forced to endure this year. And the same thing happened last year. I was in a depression after the election because we all knew this was coming. Those of us who have endured the abuse of narcissists before, the abuse of powerful men, we knew what was going to happen. Once the Democrats rolled over and didn't even bother to challenge the election results and didn't stand up for us. Once they didn't use the power we gave them in 2020 to go after the predators that we all know are out there, which are pulling the levers of power all throughout the world. And it was just most of the time, we get kind of lulled into the sense of, okay, I'll control what I can control and go on with my life. But every now and then, just the injustice of everything piles on you. And it gets to that point where you can't disregard it anymore. And that's what it's been. That's the state we've been in for the last 2 years. And so even last year, though, I was signed up to do this event because this is a long-standing event in my family. I grew up in northern Wisconsin. I've told you guys, small place, not much diversity, no diversity. But one of the main things that provided me with the salvation was the fact that there was this ski race that happened 30 miles away from where I grew up. And once a year, people would come from all over the world. They'd come and train, and you'd see them in the cafes, like these skiers from Germany and Europe and Italy, and they'd just be everywhere. And you'd hear them, and you could chat with them. And for me, I was just fascinated by it. I mean, there's plenty of people in my community that get offended when they hear any language other than English, but I always was delighted by it. So I got to know these people, and my grandparents became a host family for some of the elite skiers that would come to ski, and you'd get people who go on to ski in the Olympics. In cross country skiing, been fun watching the Olympics. I always enjoy watching the cross country skiing. And the United States in the 4x7 relay, they 4x7.5 kilometers. They got silver to the Norwegians, which was a kind of a stunning result. The men did, and we've had Jesse Diggins, who's had several gold medals. So lately, the United States has been, doing very well in cross country skiing, which is kind of fantastic. And I think the guy who ended up having the final leg in the relay race was named Shoemaker. I think he won the Berkey a couple years ago, if I'm not mistaken. I have to double check about this. So there's this skiing circuit, and cross country skiing is one of the sports. It's like I'm never going to really brush elbows with NFL players and stuff, but I've met a lot of cross country skiers, ones that are Olympic class athletes. I did the Inca Trail with Martin Kukal, who was a world champion and bronze medalist. And we came along with Roberto Carcelin, who was Peru's first Winter Olympian. So I just have kind of known these people. And even though I'm not, fast, I mean, when I was in my 20s, I tried hard. I think my best overall, I came in third place in a small race. So it's sort of like I was okay, but, never like Olympic class. And these days, I just do this event just to kinda keep up with my kids. It keeps me out of the hospital. You need something that makes you kinda scares you a little bit, um, and it makes you eat healthy for a couple months is kind of the plan, and so my little ones are big ones now, so I need to be fit so I can keep up with them. But last year, I mean, the Berkey was coming, and this had been a long time family tradition, and I was just so depressed, just had no energy. I'm sure everybody felt the same way with the results of the election, with the results of everything that's going on. It seemed frivolous to me to go out and do this event. And I was thinking to myself at the time, maybe I'd be better off just staying at home, just doing this work like I do, talking to people, trying to do what I can to help create a better society. And so I waited until the last minute last year, and we were having a forecast of 11 below 0, and I was just like, "Okay." That was making it easier and easier to not do it. I actually had resolved several times not to do it, but then, like, the night before, I'm like, "Fine, I'll just do it." I'm just gonna go do it. And what happens is it's a strange thing. Hi, Judith. I'm talking about, when you resolve to we get caught up in our frustrations, we get caught up in our worries, and then we stay in our routines, and, I eventually resolved last year, I'm like, "I'm just gonna go do this race," and it ended up being the perfect thing for me because it allowed me to go and just physically active to the point of exhaustion, and it Hey, Jack, good to see Jack. It puts you back into, it gives you that perspective on reality. I mean, you go and do a ski race you do a 50-kilometer ski race when it's 10 below 0, and you get done and you're not quite so worried about all the other things in your life. You've kinda allowed all those other petty concerns to just drift away, and really the only thing you want is to stop skiing and to get a shower and warm back up and to get some hot food in your belly. And one of my friends, he did the Berkey a couple years ago, and he's just like, "When you get done, it feels like the volume has been turned down." Here's my you can't it's reversed, but there's the sticker on my bib from yesterday, my 23rd Berkey. "The volume has been turned down on your life. All the petty things no longer bother you." So the same thing was kinda true this year as we were in the leading up because it was last week leading up to the Berkey. It's not an easy event. It's a 50 kilometers, so it's over 30 miles ski race. I'm not racing, I'm just there to finish. Um, and it was 29 degrees yesterday, so that was nice, but they were having issues with the weather. Uh-oh, I just hit a button. There we go, that went away. They were having it was so warm and it had rained, so there was doubts about how good the trail was gonna be or if that was gonna be dangerous. But I took upon myself the same thought that I'd had the year before, like, "Okay, you need to do something like this," and it becomes an obligation to your own mental health. The temptation is to just sit and fret and sit and fret. And actually, King Vet had talked to me. He'd sent me a private message. He's like, "You need to take a break." He's like, "Because you're getting burned out," he said. And he could tell. It's like, "I can tell you're getting burned out. You need to go do something." And so we're always kind of caught between those two warring, pressures where we are burned out. We recognize we're burned out, but there's also just so much to do, and there's so much that we have to respond to. And I know that Melissa Corrigan, out in I forget where she lives, but she's dealing with ice right now, and it seems so frivolous for me to go and go do an event. But in the end, what I've realized is you just have to take these moments for yourself. You have to take these mental health moments. And if you can, it doesn't have to be doing a 50-kilometer ski race, but if you guys seriously, if you can just take a day and get off your phone and rest and like just and it takes that decompressing period takes hours. It doesn't happen instantly. It takes hours. And you can do this. We have, there's a lot of days in the year. You can take one day a year or you're just off. You can. I give you permission. And you're still in this fight and you're still so valuable because we need everybody for the long term. Yeah, just take that rest. Let it decompress. Yesterday when I was I shut off my phone and I put it in the glove box of my car and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to look at anything until I get done with this event. And that's a long break for me. Normally I'm checking my messages periodically. And so here I was, I was making jokes with people as we're out there. It's like, hey, maybe we'll get done and we'll check our phones and there'll be that obituary we've been hoping for. And I'm sure there's more than one obituary we're all kind of waiting for. Well, that didn't happen, but I got home and I saw, oh look, they arrested Prince Andrew. So I was late. Oh, Judith goes to the New York City Marathon. It's my favorite event. Yes, it's so nice. But I got done with the event. There was no obituary, but yeah, they arrested Prince Andrew. So I'm like, holy cow. Holy cow. Oh, I didn't get to see. I gotta go watch the chat with Nick yesterday. Good. Oh, you okay, Amber, you were which one was this? I don't know what you're for because I didn't get. That talk with Nick when we had the talk with Jack. Okay, I see. Yeah, I'm scheduled to be talking with Jack here soon with Will Fullwood in a couple weeks. But yeah, they arrested Prince Andrew, and I'm just like, okay, geez. And that actually was like, that's not quite the obituary I wanted, but that's pretty high up there. That's pretty good. Seeing one of these big, and I was saying yesterday, these rich guys, they act tough. But this is a man who has never had to work. He's never had to worry about his rent. He's never had to worry about passing a class. He's never once been concerned about anything. He's at his age, whatever his advanced age is, he's never once experienced fear or accountability in his whole life. A guy like that, when you pull him into the interrogation room, is going to give everything up. And it just felt like that's another bubble that's been pricked and burst now. I think he's going to start saying names. Yeah, we got Jesus. Cuba's about to. Arturo Dominguez has been reporting a lot on the horrible pressure that Cuba's being subjugated to by this just anti-human regime that's causing all these problems. But I mean, Cuba was getting pressure from the Biden administration. It's like our treatment of Cuba has been deplorable, and more we just have to start awakening to this fact. But yeah, and then the Pope is coming in. But I mean, the Pope needs to do more. But yeah, you're right. They're ongoing, and I think what we're going to see, what I'm hoping to see, is that once Andrew gets, you know, I said, what they should do is they should take Prince Andrew and walk him through all the torture devices in the Tower of London. Because a little entitled shit like that, I'm sure he went through there thinking, "Oh, look, I'm the king. I could use these devices to torture people." And right now it'll be the first time in his life he will consider, "Oh, that might come after you. I mean, if this is the type of thing you're putting out into the world, it comes back to you." And all those fantasies he had about torturing other people will, for the first time in his life, be reflected back upon him. And then he'll start naming names because there's stuff that he knows. And that's just the start. It just feels like it's too big now. It feels like it's slipped out of control. And it's like with all the different things, and this is another thing. This is the importance of taking that day of distance where you just are away from your phone for a while, and like the idea of doing a marathon, doing a ski race to the point where you've just got physical exhaustion. Hello, Freya. When you get to that point of physical exhaustion where you're just yes, I don't think our president is going to resign. Our president, the guy who stole the election, I don't think he's ever going to resign. But I think the truth is a burden, to people who deny it. The truth is a joy to people who embrace it, and it's a burden to people who deny it, and it crushes them. And I think it's going to end badly. I think he's at the breaking point. His psyche has been broken. We're not going to see human justice, but I think we're going to see cosmic justice. I think that we just have to resolve ourselves to understand that. But again, I want to say, I mean, when you start getting, Jack Hopkins wrote this wonderful article recently, and he was just talking about worry. And I need to find it and share it because it's so good. Because he talks about we get it into our head that we think we're being productive by worrying, and of course it's not because so much of what we are thinking about is not stuff that we can control, and it just it builds, and it's weird how you can get caught into this fretting mentality. And so in the lead up to this ski race, I was getting kind of the double whammy because you get stressed out for doing a ski race like of that magnitude. It was going to be a long day. I mean, it's a 50-kilometer day. There's big hills on there. I'm worried about falling. I'm worrying about how the track is. I'm worried about what the weather's going to be like. And if it gets really icy, it can be dangerous. You could, and I'm getting older. I don't take a hit like I used to be able to take a hit. Hello, Lynn. Happy Friday. So I was worried about all those things with the race, and then I was also worried about all these things that's going on with reality, like our society. But then having done the race, I can look back on the days leading up to that and all that worry that I was experiencing about the ski race. A lot of it was just ridiculous. I worry about these. There's like 3 really sharp turns on the Berkey Trail every year. I always worry about these turns, and I always navigate them. And there's this buildup, worry, 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 worry. Then I'm finally on the course. I do the turn, and it's no big deal. And I've invested all this energy in that worry for weeks. Now, that's not to say that that's completely unproductive or that I was being unreasonable, because we all should be worried right now. But I think also, too, I mean, if we get through this and we manage to save as many lives as possible, this regime has already cost. It's already had a cost that can be measured in human life. Awful, awful, tragic loss of human life. And so, there should be nobody accusing us of being alarmists because it has been proven what we were afraid of happened. But, through our efforts, we can make it so this problem hopefully doesn't claim as many lives as it could have. And that's another thing to keep in mind. And my worry leading up to that race, that makes me go out and practice. That makes me go out and train. That makes me so I'm able to handle those hills. But there's a balancing point there, and there does come a moment when your worry paralyzes you. And that paralyzing point comes when the example of I'm sitting there worrying about it, worrying, and then I end up not doing the race because I'm so afraid, and then I let fear win rather than use it as a motivating tool. Yeah, there's a balance. The preparedness is what helps you. Yeah. And so I look always to the example like the millennium bug too. Everybody was laughing about, oh, that turned out to be nothing. It's like, no, we took the precautions and we made it nothing, but it was a legitimate worry. If we'd done nothing, then something bad would have happened. So so much, so much of human history, this is why we don't give credit to the right people. Because the right people prevent the worst. They prevent the Holocaust from happening and other things like that. They prevent the terrorist attacks. And we've just got this contorted version of what a hero is. Because if you get justice for somebody who's already spent a lifetime abusing people, that's the person we revere. We don't revere the person that stops all the torture before it even starts. So that's one of the big kind of problems. Yeah, and Amber, this is what I'm saying because it's like sorry about the cough. After skiing like a day like yesterday, you get that kind of skier's cough. I'm drinking coffee with honey today. Yeah, you get that kind of. It's a little bit hard work on the body, but it's good. I'm tired in my shoulders, but I was in pretty good shape. And this is just the whole point of this. So many people look at things like a ski race or a marathon or any kind of athletic thing, and they're like, well, if you don't win, what's the point? And I'm 50 years old. It's not about winning. It's about me just doing having a motivation to do something daily that's good for me. And sometimes I do my workouts, not even really thinking about it, or while I'm doing my workout, I'm doubling up and I'm recording voice notes. And the idea is, just to just stay healthy. And if you're not doing those things, to get outside. And there's times that I'll leave the door and I'll be inspired to write like 4 voice notes. I'll do them. And then finally I'll kind of decompress and I'll start just enjoying the walk. And we need to do that. There goes the cops. But the worry doesn't help you. And even yesterday, because I was all wound up. I mean, in the days leading up to the ski race, I've been all wound up. You probably have noticed. I don't know if you recognize a change in my demeanor from today and the last time I talked, would have been on Wednesday. And I do kind of feel too. It's like having spent a day where you're just like, okay, I'm just going to concentrate on skiing today for like 5 hours and then driving. So it's a big long day. I had to get up at like 4 in the morning to drive up there, and I didn't get home until 4 in the afternoon. And you're just physically exhausted. And it's just you kinda do feel your mind, like, reset. It's like doing a factory reset on your phone, you know? It's just like, okay, all that junk that was like zzz, or like closing all the tabs on your computer, and there's just like this weird silence that comes, and we need to do that. Yeah. Yeah, somebody's like, "Be safe, the last thing you need is a blown knee or broken hip." Yeah. But I mean, I think I'm less likely to have a blown knee or broken hip if I'm out exercising, you know? If I'm out doing things every single day. Then I stay better, and I keep my and skiing is such a good sport. It's like yoga because you have to balance. It's a balance sport. It's a low impact sport. The only time you get in trouble is on those big hills, if there's a crash, or if there's an icy hill. But I mean, that kind of stuff, you could slip and fall just as easily getting out of the bathtub. So I think it gets to the point of preparedness. But yeah, thank you for that reassurance to be safe. But yeah, it's like leading up to that event, and it happens every single year, and this is another reason why I make myself do it. Yeah, long Christiane says, long drives help me decompress. I used to do that once a year too. I'd go visit my friends out in Colorado. This was when I was in my 20s, and even like doing a drive, I do like the straight through drive from Wisconsin to Colorado. It's like 17 hours. And it's like a physical challenge. You're sitting there and it's like I found this because I tried to do a long drive not too long ago, and I just don't have the vitality I used to have naturally, and it was just like, "This is harder for me." My eyes are getting tired and the body's getting tired, and that happens in the ski race too. But it's one of those things that you get out of your just routine, and we just are such slaves to our routine. And I'm not trying to sit here and tell you that things aren't dangerous, because things are really dangerous right now, and there's a lot of things that we need to be worrying about. I'm just trying to also urge you. I'm 50. I'm also trying to urge you to give yourself that grace to take a break. I mean, I think something as simple, honestly, as doing a camping trip. I mean, if you're living in weather that's nice enough, do an overnight. Leave your phone at home and go camping. And just that, where you're like, "Okay, I'm just gonna focus on eating." It's a little bit uncomfortable. You're focusing on basic things like, "Oh, I'd like to get a shower." Some camping sites have warm showers you can take. If you do that, and if you do that, like, once a month, faced with everything that we're dealing with right now, because the reality is we get kinda caught up in this moment. Oh, there's Lefty Prof too, and Sloan. We get caught up in this constant pressure, and this is the abuse of fascism, that narcissistic abuse at scale, like your weirdo friend called it, and it's designed to keep us constantly on our heels. It's that ideology that constantly, it's like playing chess where you're just putting people in check, 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 check. And there's a way to beat that, because it's not a viable strategy. If you're only thinking about check and you're not thinking about 3 moves down the road, you can be beaten, you can be exploited. But we have to give ourselves time, to recognize that. And they deliberately try to steal all of our breaks from us. Rest is resistance. Go read that book too. Yeah, family day is a good day too. Just spend some time with the kids. It's so important though to put the phone down, because it's so easy to get drawn back in and sucked back into that doom scrolling thing. Oh, Amber, this is a lovely comment. Movement reminds your body that it is safe. It helps prevent trauma, even vicarious trauma, from becoming embedded, because your brain gets the message you're effectively moving away from danger. One of my good friends and mentors, Dave Landgraf, he said, and exercise is the cure for all that ails us. And yes, but a lot of my life was because it was inspired by this ski race, the American Birkebeiner. There are these challenges in life, that we all have to overcome. And yesterday, as I was driving home from the race, I was thinking about the movie The Mission. It's got Robert De Niro and Jeremy Irons. Jeremy Irons plays a priest, and Robert De Niro's like this conquistador, and he's like overcome with guilt. He has this burden of guilt, and Jeremy Irons decides, he's like, "Okay, this is what we're gonna do." And he ties, like, this huge, heavy weight to Robert De Niro. I forget the characters' names, but Robert De Niro has to climb up this mountain, and that represents the burden of his guilt. And Jeremy Renner's just kinda watching this, he's being passive, and you can see Robert De Niro struggling as he's climbing up, and it seems cruel, and then they finally get to the top, and he cuts free the burden, and it falls away, and now he's liberated from that burden. And that would actually work, that physical representation, because 'cause we're feeling this burden, because all the injustices of our society right now. And if you watch it fall away then, and you get that sense of you see it, and in your mind you connect to that, and then you're liberated, and you still have things you have to deal with, but now you're empowered because 'cause you're not burdened by this weight of this external thing that you have no control over. And that was the Jack Hopkins article. You don't have control over these things. And they trick us. They trick us to fret over the things we have no control over and disregard the things we do have control over. And one of the things I thought about when I was thinking about that movie, The Mission, is how that represented a challenge that was made up by a person, and he's just kind of observing it in the moment. But there are other types of challenges. Somebody could say something. There's something that's like, "I'm gonna make you walk until I think you're tired," and they're just through their observation, they see you're tired. But that's like a moment of just observation. Whereas a thing like this ski race, somebody just declares, "Hey, let's try to ski 50 kilometers." That's different because you don't know how hard it's gonna be until the day happens. And so overcoming that challenge with all the uncertainty of it, yes, it's so liberating. And I guess that's what I wanna talk about today, or what I'm trying to get around. It's like yesterday I had my day where I did this event, and it helped me be liberated from a lot of this kind of these misconceptions and these frustrations about torturing myself with all the things that I really don't have control over. Which isn't to say, "Hey, Eric, good to see you. I'm sorry I missed the talk yesterday." He was and they're so nice. The group of guys, it's so unusual. I was thinking to myself yesterday because the Diogenes Club, the boys there, and we were talking about intelligent masculinity, and they were sending such nice messages on Signal, and I'm just like, I don't really know how to deal with this. 'Cause in my life, I've only had to deal with people that are abusive, and I'm kinda, like, comfortable dealing with people who are abusive. So when people are kind and supportive, you're left going, "Okay, this is nice. I don't know how to react to this." So it's lovely. So I really appreciate Eric and Evan and Nick. I'll have to go watch the video that I missed yesterday. But yeah, yesterday for me was a day of unleashing those, just kind of freeing those burdens. Oh, yeah, well, I can take it. See, that helps me feel. Eric says, "Only have to worry about me abusing you. Nick and Evan are angels." Yeah. Well, that's okay because that makes it feel like that makes it feel like home when somebody's beating up on me a little bit. So thanks for that. No, I'm kidding. Eric is lovely. He's just teasing. Yeah. But yeah, we're getting back to it. And I just want to say, because everybody, we get trapped. We get trapped in this thinking where we think to ourselves, we can never take a day off. We can never do anything for ourselves. That's being frivolous. I remember a guy, because my mom always did the American Birkebeiner, and my great grandfather, I think on my dad's side, he was berating her. He's like, "Well, you've got all these responsibilities. You're a mom, and I do the Berkey. So I'm better equipped to handle my responsibilities." That was the line. "Why'd you go up to the top of the mountain to die?" It's like, "I went up there to live." And but our society pushes us to relinquish our power is really what it comes down to. But I do have another example from yesterday, because it's just like I was in that mindset. I was in my mindset of, there's my pin again, my completion pin from yesterday. I'm just sitting here playing with it. I've got 23 of these now. I've done the Berkey 23 times. And it gets to be, my mom's done it, I think she's at 37 times. She did it, she was out there doing it, yes. She had to quit because of the ice, the conditions were really bad, and she felt horrible. She's like, "I had to pull out." It's like, "You did the right thing. It was getting dangerous." But she's tough, and, yeah, and I mean, skiing has been a thing that has yeah, it's helped get me through. I'm tired now. Today's a tired day. A nice 5-hour ski yesterday. It's nice to be back here. But just to encourage people, yeah, take those days, give yourselves those breaks, and then come back into it. My mind was so worked up with all these anxieties, and you create. So that's the other thing I wanted to mention, is that when we get caught up in that mindset of worry, that mindset where we surrender our powers and we just allow ourselves to be tormented by the things we can't control, you start creating things that aren't even real. So yesterday I pulled in to the event. They had a parking lot, then they bus us to the start. So they'd cleared out this field, and I was worried about it because the temperatures were so warm. I'm like, "Oh, this field's it's gonna be a muddy mess, and I'm not gonna be able." So I'm worried about these things. I'm like, "This is gonna be a muddy mess. I'm not gonna be able to get my car out of here." I'm worried about something that's at the end of the day, and I'm just like sitting there being, just assuming everything's going to go bad instead of being hopeful that things are gonna go right. So you're in that mindset. And that's the burnout that King Ray Vet brought up the other day. The burnout is when you're like that, when you're just assuming everything's going to fail, and it's just not reality. We think of it as pragmatism. We think of it as being practical, but there's another side, and sometimes that's true. You should be, as somebody previously said, you do need to think about your preparedness, but you also can't succumb to this hopelessness. So there's a balance there. So I pulled into the parking lot and it's like, "Oh, this is gonna be a muddy mess." And then they piled up the snow to make these barricades. So I crept forward, to get as close to the barricade as possible because I didn't want my car to get hit from behind. And I was rolling up on this snow and my bumper hit it. Dunk. I've done this 1,000 times. But it turned out no most of the time you can hit the snow and it just kind of gently impacts, but this snow was a hardened block of ice. It was like hitting a cinder block. So I was like, "Ah." So then I took another, like, psychological hit. I'm like, "Ah, I just ruined my car," and I went and took a look at it, and I pulled it back a little bit, and then I was sitting in my car, and I'm like then I thought it smelled like antifreeze, so I'm thinking, I ruined my all this was all just complete fabrications. So I'm sitting there, I ruined my radiator, there's antifreeze leaking. But I'm just like, "Enough. I'm gonna go do the race. I'll worry about this will be here when I get back." And so I go and do the race, and of course I get back and that was all nothing. My car was fine. I drove it home. I did check. There was no antifreeze under there. It's designed it and it wasn't it was a 1 mile an hour bump. Oh, stop. And so it was no big deal at all, but these things just compile, and that's just the state you're in. And to some extent that state, that kind of frantic state where you're just grasping at everything, that's driving a lot of the work I'm doing now. And on the other side of that is that there are so many things happening right now that are cruelty that need to be exposed. So we have to do that work to talk about it. But at the same time, it's like if you get too caught up in that cycle, you end up fabricating these things that are pretty disconnected from reality, like this idea that I just crushed my radiator with this gentle bump into a snowbank. Um, and it's like, although that even that thought, there's a line you can draw where that's at least tethered to reality, like a thread tethers a balloon to the ground. But it's not really a problem you have to worry about. It was funny though. I was telling this story. I wanna share this story. This is funny. On the morning, because we always yeah, and Tamar says, "We get so used to getting hit in the stomach with no resolve, and we get so used." I think it's more yeah, if you lived in Florida, but then I wouldn't be able to ski my ski race, and that race has saved my life. It makes you yeah, there's so many wonderful people and so many great experiences. Every time I've done that race, it's been just a joy and an adventure. But I wanna talk too. So what you do is you get on the bus and you ride up to the start, and all the skiers, they get on the bus with all their gear and this big mess, and we're all sitting there, the ski poles poking people in the eyes and things like that. Yes, it was so important to do it, and it's just that cleansing yourself through physical activity, and it doesn't have to be a 50-kilometer ski race. Just go for a walk, just do something, put your phone away and just do something. Please, people, I need you to do that. Oh, Christian says, I did damage it. I've done that with so many snowbanks over throughout the years. Yeah. But okay, so you get on the bus, everybody's getting in there with their ski poles, we're finding our place to sit. Then people start getting chatty. And I was telling this story. This is kind of funny because I realized with storytelling, this had been a good story, but then I told it to my family yesterday. And so now there's another component to the story, and that's my kids' reactions and my wife's reactions, which is kind of good. So sometimes you can I was like, I realized this story wasn't quite good enough, and then that happened. I'm like, "Oh, that was the extra bit it needed." So I sit down at the dinner table yesterday, and I'm telling my family about this because I got on the bus and I'm just sitting there, and there's usually 2 types of people. There's people that wanna be just quiet and focused, and then there's some that are, like, talking, and that's usually me. I'm just like, "Hey, I figure I'm like the guy in the "You can't turn into your dad" commercials. I'm just, like, talking to people. I just assume people wanna hear this. So anyway, there's a guy sitting next to me, and, he starts talking about a lot of people just wanna brag about themselves. That's fine. They can brag about themselves. And, he was talking about how, 40 years ago, he was a masters champion bicycle racer, and he's going on and on. We're just like, "Okay, yeah. I'm glad you're all excited about this." But I'm telling this story to my daughter because what he said was so funny. Because he started going in, about how he wants to start biking groups, and it's like, "How is it that you're having a hard time getting people to go on bike rides with you?" And then he admitted, he's like, "Well, I like to ride my bicycle without a helmet." And we're like, "Oh, geez." But and so my daughter starts laughing. But just before that, he was sitting there saying the first thing he did when he turned to talk to me, he's like, "Hey," and this was yesterday. This was Thursday. He's like, "Hey, uh," he's like, "Yesterday I was out." What did he say? How did he put it? He was out. He was out. He says, "Yesterday I was out on the trail and it was terrible." And I said, "Oh, Wednesday?" Because it was the rain day. And he goes, "No, yesterday." And this was happening on Thursday. So I'm like, he gives me this just real sincere look. I'm like, okay. And then so I'm just like, I just let that go. I was telling him, I'll just let that go. So then the guy behind me a little bit later, he's saying the same thing. He's like, "Yeah, yesterday I was out in the snow." And the guy said the same thing. Wednesday? And 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 the guy goes, "No, yesterday." And the guy goes, "Today's Thursday. Yesterday was Wednesday." And then the guy goes, "Oh, Tuesday." And so when I was telling this story to my daughter, yeah, when I was telling this story to my daughter, I was like, this shows the difference between how my brain works and how that guy behind me's brain works. Because I run into this guy where this guy's like, "Yesterday," and then he doesn't know what day yesterday was. I was like, "Okay, let's just move on from that." Where this other guy was like just boldly going through it, like, "Okay, let's get this established." And then a little while later, the guy told the story about how he insists on doing all of his bike rides without a helmet. And that's when the guy behind me goes, "Yeah, that's why you can't remember what day it is. You take so many hits to the head. You can't." And I told this story to my daughter, and she just started laughing. And this is on the bus. And sitting in front of this guy who was insisting on biking without his helmet was this woman. She looked to be a little older than me, but she's sitting there and she's just kind of like rolling her eyes with the guy's just like he starts giving us his anecdotal evidence about how it's safer um, and not to ride bike. Yeah, somebody just mentioned Allison. I live up north, but snowshoe, that's wonderful too. Snowshoeing is fantastic. So anyway, there's this woman in front, and she was just like, "Oh, I'm just not. This guy's ridiculous." But then I was like, "Okay, this lady thinks he's ridiculous, so I'm going to tease him a little bit." So I said, "Hey, what you should do is you should go to various schools." I meant this all facetiously, of course. And I'm just like, "You should go to schools and start some clubs for kids who want to bike ride without their helmets," just to see if I could get a rise out of this guy. And the lady in front of him, she started laughing. My daughter was like, so then I was like, I started thinking of like, okay, what went through my head was like, how can I elevate this situation? I was telling my daughter that, how can I elevate this situation even more, make it more extreme? And I'm like, so what are your ideas on vaccines? I didn't actually say that. I thought I might do that, but I said that to my daughter, and she just about spit out her food. And I was like, "Oh, daddy, you got to cause all these problems." But then the guy talked about, yeah, how he'd been, how he'd been recently hit by a car, and he wasn't wearing a helmet at the time. And he's like, "I just tuck and roll, I just tuck and roll." And it's just like, and I was going to give him a whole lecture about how anecdotal evidence is completely invalid, but I didn't think that was worth the point. So anyway, I was having that was the story of the trip to the bike ride. Let me read what. Hi, Crin. Oh, Crin's here. That's so nice. I'm just talking about getting our rest. Amber says, "I'm in Southern California, so no snow, but got a nail in my tire." Yeah, first my mother picked the car up from having the bearings, alternator, belts, and catalytic converter replaced. Yep. Hopefully, a nail in your tire can be fixed with a plug. You don't have to get a whole new one, but well, that's weird. I get a message from Crin, and then afterwards it says Crin joined. So Then later on in the day too, this just weird things happen. You're just too tired. You're having conversations with people. So I'd finished the race. I changed my clothes. They let you change. So I'm getting back on the shuttle that takes me out to the spectators parking lot. And I get into the shuttle. And the first one, I notice this is a school bus, but it's got seatbelts. And I'm just like, oh, seatbelts in a school bus. That's kind of good. But then the guy, he was just like, because he had a captive audience, he's sitting there in the driver's seat. He's like grizzled, and then he's like, well, I'm not sure I agree. And I was like, okay, here we go again. But a lot of times I'm just in this sort of like, I kind of get in this habit of just letting people talk. Like that guy who didn't know what day it was. I'm just like, I'm not going to challenge him on that. Just, okay, just keep telling your story, buddy. What good's going to come from making him recognize he had the day wrong? What year do you think it is, buddy? Yeah, you can't do that. So this guy's sitting there and he's like, seatbelts, and he's going on. He's like, well, you get into some issues. So, but I let him talk, and he's like, well, the first thing is they take the seatbelts and they use them as weapons and they hit each other with them. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of valid. And then he starts and he's like, and then they're like jamming pencils and stuff in the seatbelt. They're doing all this. And it's like, and then he says, and then when the bus, like, if a bus crashes, it like burns up right away, which may or may not have been valid. But he's like, half the time the kids, because the mechanisms are all jammed from them sitting in it, then they can't get out of the burning bus. And if you got a belt cutter, it only cuts like 2 or 3 belts before it goes dull. So he's telling me all this, and I'm just like, man, it's like, okay, I guess we should listen to the guys who drive the buses. But I don't know. Funny stuff. The funny things people, and it's like that's I mean, but that was my day. It was preferable to have these conversations with just people rather than doom scroll all day long. Yeah. Oh, it says, "Oh, shoot." Amber says the nail entered right at the edge of the tread sidewall, so I had to get the and I hope did you have one of those cars where you have to replace all 4 wheels? Like a all-time four-wheel drive has to replace like mine does. You have to replace all 4. Yeah, it didn't kill me. We always gotta kinda refresh back to that. But yeah, there's no better feeling. You finish up in one of those races or events or just one of those things that allows you to just kinda get out of the daily grind that's by design. We get pushed into these things where we're kind of have to live our lives right at the edge. And you have to remember that the time we spend fretting about things we can't control is the time we spend fretting about things that we can't control steals our energy for personal advancement. And I my book about living in Peru is called Reckless Traveler because so many people that I met, they regarded me as reckless for just pulling up and leaving the country. And I'm just like, you're the ones who are reckless. Actually, Corey does that too on his radical paths because he sold everything. He quit his job. He's got his PhD in some sort of medical field, but he just quit. He bought a sailboat. He's sailing around the world now. People are like, well, you're being reckless. And he's like, you're the one reckless. You're the one working a job you hate, eating food that is gonna kill you, buying things that don't make you happy, fretting about all these things you can't control. And if you just give yourself a second to get away from those things and all these things we're told to be afraid of. And I know most of my life too, like people, oh, you can't go to South America. They'll kill you down there, on and on and on. They know nothing. Nobody knows anything about South America is wonderful. They don't want you to go there. All these people that make you feel, oh, you can't learn a foreign language. It's impossible. I learned Spanish when I was 26. All that's lies. And all these things that just are fear based lies. And it's just the constant torrent of them. And I'm on the lookout for them. I do this for a living. I'm on the lookout for these lies that are told. And even I get caught up in them. And you could probably see it on Wednesday. I mean, I bet I bet you notice a difference between Wednesday and today after having taken my day yesterday to just release that pressure release, get rid of all that nonsense and turn down the volume of all the liars in the world and just kind of boldly go forward and have the courage to live your life a little bit is what we need to do. Yeah. Eat and breathe. Yeah, you can see those from there. Yeah, that's that's my note from I was thinking it would be a good yeah. No, Crid, people will because when I was 26 and I moved to South America, that's what everybody said. They thought it was so dangerous, and I'm just like, I feel safer there than I ever have felt in the United States. I feel so much safer. The people are so kind, but so many American, and then they look at you as if you're being, uh, impractical, and that's the pressure trap, because we succumb to all this absurd pressure that we can't live with, that's unsustainable because we feel we're being responsible, and that's the lie. That's what Jack Hopkins said in his article. The lie that you end up wasting all your energy worrying about things you can't control, and that steals your power from doing the things you can control. Yeah, I did it out of just pure. Kren says, "It's so awesome you got to go live in Peru." I did it out of pure. Oh, all right, I'll get back to Howard's comment in a second. But I went out of pure desperation. I was ready to kill myself, honestly. And so I'm just like, I'm out of here. Anything has got to be better than this. So I just went to Peru with my backpack, and they adopted me and saved my life down there. So Howard says, breaking news: the Supreme Court just nixed the tariffs. So, like I said, we keep hoping for the obituary, but all this other news, that's okay, Corinne. I think the path I went down has prepared me for this moment. And my wife has said the same thing about things like that. Growing up, yeah, I don't know, didn't nixed his tariffs. That's bad. I mean, that's bad for this regime. Eric, I think that hurts him. Does it? How did 663? You said they canceled the tariffs, right? So that would be bad for the administration. I maybe there's an inter. Oh, they okay. I gotta get what the news is then. Somebody has to tell me what the news is. What did you read, Eric? Oh, okay. But anything that seems like it is standing up to the regime, okay. Anything that sounds like it's standing up to the regime, even if it is going to help the economy, is bad for the regime. This regime cannot take any appearance of weakness. And if the Supreme Court has finally stood up to the regime, that must mean even they are smelling blood in the water. A lot of it might have to do with this uh the pedophile formerly known as Prince. I I wrote that yesterday because I accidentally referred to Andrew with the word Prince, and somebody called me out on it rightfully because he is no longer a prince. So then I started calling him the pedophile formerly known as Prince. And yeah, that's bad for the regime. And the Sturge writes it down. He's like, don't bring Prince into it. And I'm just like, well, yeah, pedophile form. But then he was like mad at me, and just like, I'm not trying to cast. I didn't think anybody would remember that, about, because at one point Prince, because he's the artist. See, it's not the same. He's the artist formerly known as Prince, and Andrew is the pedophile formerly known as Prince. So I'm not casting anything bad on Prince the artist. But there was a time when Prince decided to go by an indecipherable or unpronounceable glyph. And so, just to kind of be smug about it, the media started referring to him as the artist formerly known as Prince. So I thought people might have not even remembered that even happened. But yeah, this is bad for the regime. So that's good. Oh, the border czar's on CNN now too. See, this is nonstop. Yeah, yes, absolutely not. Prince is right from my neck of the woods. So, and amazingly talented. But yeah, I didn't mean to tarnish his name. I was, again, the pedophile formerly known as Prince is Andrew. The artist formerly known as Prince is Prince. But it's good that we're talking about Prince anyway. The good one. So that's good news. Yeah, we'll see what happens. But again, always with the Supreme Court thing, this doesn't justify the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is still corrupt. If they made one good decision, they probably have some other reason. It's probably self-preservation is the only thing they're making this decision for, but they're not. They've already demonstrated they don't make decisions based on the Constitution or what's good for people, so they have to go. Um, Too often we see in the American public, and I keep seeing it with people like Adam Kinzinger and Massey. They'll do one good thing, and then people act as if that's their character, and then they become disturbed and frustrated when they do something against that one good act. They don't ever frustrate me because I know that they're all corrupt people, and just because they, like a broken clock, do the right thing every now and then, it doesn't change their nature of corruption. And so, yes, ongoing, and that's the big thing. Our big more and more what I'm starting to realize is our complacency. I talked with your weirdo friend the other day. That was such a wonderful conversation. And they had this idea called the daisy chain, where we're building our communities. We're actually finally fighting back against corruption. And we have to recognize that just because the regime gets toppled and the people in power that are evil get removed, we'd still have to do that daisy chain. We still have to build that up. We have to completely reform, recalibrate our whole society. We have to swing that pendulum hard to the left. And we can't become complacent. We can't become complacent when we get the appearance of some sort of victory. We can't think, oh, they've repealed the tariffs, so now everything's going to be fine. Nope. And you saw this. I was reading, yes, and I was reading Where Do We Go From Here, Martin Luther King's book. Everybody's got to read this. This helps so much. You guys, people have been here before. What we're going through right now is not unique. This is the reoccurring history, not just of the United States, but of all humanity. Every single book that I've been reading lately, I'm just like, holy shit, that's so helpful. And in Where Do We Go From Here, Martin Luther King says, even in the civil rights era, there was this pushback. The black community got some advancements, and then people started saying, well, it's greedy to ask for more. You've already gotten so much. We have to get to that point. I mean, we have to start recognizing the extent to which we just can't afford to have a wealthy community. These wealthy elites, you look at things like somebody was saying, okay, the banks are going to fail because they're all incompetently run. And what always happens when the banks fail is that they get a taxpayer funded bailout. So we, the working class, our labor is stolen once again. We fund these bankers because billionaires can never be made to be poor. If we would just let the billionaires fall into ruin, we wouldn't have to bail them out all the time. And we constantly do. So we're constantly paying this billionaire tax in one way or another. It's all hidden. But all of our labors are funneled over to this one class of people that are allowed to have privileges, and then it corrupts and rots their minds. So they have their pedophile islands where they eat babies and shit. I mean, that's in the Epstein files. There's weird shit. My daughter brought it back to me where they'd been talking about it in school. So the cat is out of the bag if kids sitting around the table are talking about it. But we need to have that fundamental realization that extreme wealth costs too much, and the price is measured in suffering of children and suffering of the innocent. We can't afford to do it anymore. And once you recognize that fundamental truth, we no longer have to listen or respond to all the absurd arguments when people are like, well, rich people did this, because there's all these people, they've been indoctrinated by the rich to repeat all these nonsensical arguments about how wealth is justified. And it's not. Once we just fundamentally understand it's not, all those arguments, we don't even have to respond. We can jump over them. And we're not going to get to the place we need to be by arguing with these people who are not being intellectually fair in how they talk about things with us. I'm going to go through a couple more of these comments here. It was wonderful. Yep. And Amber says, same with Congress, and that Democrats and Republicans alike. We got to vote them all out. The primaries are the key right now. And I've been Clinton says, you saw that picture of Andrew after he got outright. Yeah. I mean, for the first time in his life, here is a rich person who has had to endure accountability, and it's going to break him. I mean, if any of us, we get faced with accountability daily, and we know it stresses us, but we've developed the mechanisms to handle that. For a privileged, entitled little silver spoon jerk like the pedophile formerly known as Prince, it's going to break him. And he's going to start naming names. He's going to start doing whatever he can to not have to endure any kind of suffering. Yeah, the Supreme Court. I mean, there's 3 on there that are good, but the other ones are just so corrupt. You couldn't even be on that court. I don't know how the other 3 even managed to be in the same room with those just vile people. And Amber says, same with Congress. Can't count on them to uphold the rule of law and human rights just because they made one correct decision. Yeah, we got to vote them out. Epstein files, but yeah, I mean, but I think we have to go and reevaluate Massey's motivations on the Epstein files too. I think we can assume he did it for the right reasons because that doesn't fit in with the whole rest of his behavior. I mean, sometimes people can do. I mean, the president signed the Epstein release too. He signed that into law. He signed it in because they had a veto-proof majority. But we shouldn't give the president any credit for signing that. And I don't know if we should give Massey credit for the Epstein files either. But that's a good conversation. Yep. Thank you. We got to rebuild. Yeah, you're a weirdo friend, and Corinne's really great too. Corinne Johansson, she's here, and wonderful commentary. Another one who's really impresses me is Rachel at This Woman Votes. She'll read one of my articles and write a response, like a summary, and it's just like this analytical summary, and it just reveals so much to me about my own article. There's nobody else really that writes quite those kind of comments. Those are fantastic. Yeah, I've read Nobody's Girl by Virginia Giuffre. It's heartbreaking. We have to do it though. And another thing that's what's happened now too is so many of us, and I'm included in this until the last couple of years. I mean, it's just there are horrors that are really hard to face and confront, and we just have to. We just have to. This whole lie about how we can't make kids feel bad about themselves has to go out the window. We have to confront the horrors and atrocities of the world to recognize they exist, to orient ourselves in the realities of our times, and to empower ourselves to fix them. And if we're just living in denial, like everything is perfect, don't even talk to me about these horrible things, you set your kids up to be oppressed and exploited and abused. So I'm sorry, but yeah, I mean, balance it out with doing a ski race every now and then, but spend the rest of your time going through the hard material. Okay, Judith, she's on the subway. Thanks for being here. Yeah, a supreme decision in the sea of shit decisions is not the measure. The shit decisions are yep, they are. Hashtag SCOTUS shit decisions. I like that word. Um, yeah, I mean the worship of wealth and Paul Vigna, he was on here. He reached out to me. He wrote this book called The Almightier, and it talked about how that philosophy of worshiping wealth developed, going all the way back to the biblical age. It's really an interesting book. Really good. That interview I did with him was good too. Yeah, and Andy, we can't be passive as the regime is attempting to drag us back. We're in a Jim Crow era. Let's just face it. I mean, white supremacists rig elections. That's what history shows. They've done it many, many different ways. Anytime you get a white supremacist running for office, that white supremacist is going to cheat to win that election, especially if the opponent he's running against is a black woman, 100% guaranteed. And you can generally tell if somebody's a white supremacist because they might have 34 felony counts related to election interference. They might be facing an indictment for election interference in another year. And it's just I keep saying to people too, they're so worried. Oh, they're going to steal the midterms. They stole 2024. It's like, but don't talk about that. And then I get to where people have this argument. They say, well, if we talk about that, people be de-incentivized to go out and vote. It's like, no, I disagree. I reject that argument. I think if we demand recounts the same way Republicans have always demanded recounts, we show our power. We embrace our power. We're just saying, and if it's, they do recounts and they show it was a legitimate voter election, fine. I'll accept that. That's where we're different. When we get proof that it was legitimate, I accept that truth. The Republicans don't because they're white supremacists. The only truth they will accept is their delusional white supremacist narrative, which is that they always win. That's how we're different. But we're completely allowed to ask questions and demand to be shown the proof. And the people that sit there and say we don't have any proof that it was stolen are lying because we haven't done the investigation yet. You have to do the investigation first. It's not a conspiracy theory until you've done the investigation. They keep getting that wrong. Oh boy. Yeah, I don't know. Taxes. Illegal tariffs. Yep, we just mentioned that. We're happy about that. And at the same time, what have you done for me lately? That decision's in the past. I want to see SCOTUS make some. I mean, they stole bodily autonomy for women, so fuck them. Seriously. They did their job. Yeah. Actually, yeah. I have to go look at who. Yeah, actually, that's right. Which one? I don't know for sure, son. Which ones did vote for it? Who were the ones? Yeah. No, that's a good one. It's important it's important to validate that and appreciate that. The Board of War. Now we're talking. I mean, should the pedophile formerly known as Prince be put on suicide watch? Probably. Of course, yeah. I mean, a guy like that, they fold. They're weak. Those entitled people, they start spilling the beans. We'll see. I'm scrolling down here. So it was said that 0 Republicans showed for the Wexner's deposition. Well, of course it would, because if it said 0, yeah, there's all this evidence that Massey is just not a good guy. He's got the one thing to his name, but who knows? Maybe he was just. Somebody said that he's another Russian agent. He was just applying pressure on the regime. which was the only reason he pushed for this Epstein thing. So he's not a good person. Yeah, this will hold. I was set to interview this will hold, and it hasn't happened yet. I hope it happened. Alito, Kavanaugh, Thomas were the dissents. Okay, interesting. Yeah, and I think Andrew's got info too, so we'll see. All right, so we're closing in on my hour. Yeah, I missed you guys yesterday. It's nice to come on. I like seeing these comments and things coming in. And I did just want to encourage you all. I mean, yeah, yesterday was a break day, but I have been doing these informal chats in the mornings. I think I'll keep doing them. I don't know if it's too much. Yeah. Okay. Eric says to impose broad tariffs was unconstitutional, striking down a central pillar of his economic agenda. The decision expected to significantly reduce, though not eliminate, the 1,300 to 1,700 annual tariff related burden on households. Well, are they going to refund the money that was collected through tariffs too? Is that another thing? We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I wanted to encourage you guys. The whole point of this was yes. I know that we can all feel burdened, and talking with Will Fullwood, he's always said, "What you're doing is enough. Just what you're doing is enough," because the challenges against us right now are insurmountable. It feels like that, but it only feels like that because no one person can solve everything, and that's the thing people have been saying. Nobody's coming to save us. Except we're coming to save us. And we have to get away from that kingmaker mentality. That's an issue on Substack too, where you see people who flock to the creators who already have those purple check marks, which means they have tens of thousands of paid subscribers, and they disregard the names they don't know as much. But I've talked too often about we're kind of at the fringe of media. And I don't mean fringe as if, that should be dismissed, but we're the side that is deliberately silenced. We are the side that is deliberately silenced by the abusers in power who have stolen all their wealth. And it's really important. I mean, if your job, if what you can do is you have a good job and you can support creators, please do that. I'm one of the creators. I need your support. That helps. Please support me over people like Adam Kinzinger, who is already a multimillionaire. He has his tens of thousands of paid subscribers. He doesn't need it. So look through the people you subscribe. And if you're seeing a lot of purple check marks, consider subscribing to somebody like Melissa Corrigan. Right now, she just posted, I mean, ICE is in her area. She's been out on the street. She's doing important work. She's living in terror right now. And so why would you support Adam Kinzinger when you can support Melissa Corrigan? And her work is fantastic. She's done really important work. People like Arturo Dominguez, and Shane Yurek, all these, and Nick Paro, everybody out there doing all this work. And Americans have to deliberately get away from their kingmaker mentality, because it's a lazy mentality where you're like, I'm just going to give all my resources to this one person who I believe in, and that person will save us. That person then becomes corrupted by that wealth. We have to spread it out. Spread it out. I think, getting to that orange check mark is pretty reasonable. If it gets to 1,000 paid subscribers, that actually, 1,000, if you're making 50 annually, that's $50,000. That's a pretty reasonable amount of money for somebody to make. But the purple ones no longer deserve support, honestly. And the people who have purple check marks should be out supporting the smaller creators. We need to start getting that mindset. And we got to get away. I mean, this idea of getting away from wealth, it starts with every individual person. And we have to start deliberately, Robert Reich posted today. He said, he's like, stop, boycott AT&T, Dell, and Amazon, because they're the ones helping ICE. And they keep bragging about the stock market. Stock market's propped up by all these billions of dollars of taxpayer money that were pumped into ICE. All the for-profit prisons and stuff, they're all buying stuff. They're flush with money. It's all just a lie. And so please, yeah, I mean, help your neighbor. Don't help the millionaires. I mean, that's really, that's a big part of this. So let me roll through here. A couple more of these things. Yeah, the short-term volatility. Yeah, we'll see what happens. We have to save ourselves. And that's the other thing, is we've always had that power. And part of the reason we haven't known we could save ourselves is because they take it away. They keep us constantly under stress. We're constantly reaction. We give away our power because we're fretting over things we can't control. Oh God, yeah, we'll see. Yeah, Eric's. He says the administration may pivot to alternative legal authorities such as Section 122, and yeah, they're going to definitely try to do something, and they're never going to quit. I mean, What it is it's like a screaming thing that's just is shrinking, shrinking, shrinking. So the screams go from being loud in your face to being like, "Beep, beep, 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 beep." But he's never going to stop doing the exact same things he's always done. It's just that our attention is drawn away from them. That's how it ends. I mean, we keep hoping. Thank you, Joanna, for supporting me. I appreciate that. We keep hoping for some sort of a Hollywood style movie ending. It's not going to happen. The reality doesn't follow that. What we've seen in Hollywood is part of the propaganda element that's put out by these billionaires in order to keep us under control. Yeah, all the towns, all the people have been the nonviolence, standing up. Just start asking, what assurance do we have that ICE is, the ICE agents are not rapists and pedophiles? What assurance do we have? They hide their names. Why are they hiding their names? And then they call it doxing, but it's like, would we hire teachers if we didn't know who they were? I personally want to know the name of whoever it is who shot my wife 10 times in the face. I think I have a right to know that. And I'm sure shit not really happy with my taxpayer dollars going to pay that guy. Makes no sense. Let me scroll through here. The protesting, Minneapolis, they were boy, they need a reward after this. They need a recognition. The whole damn city needs a Congressional Medal of Honor for what that's worth these days. Yeah. Enough is enough t-shirt. Good. I know Nick's been putting out some merch too. If you want some a day the notes of the week sweatshirt, you can get that from Nick. Thank you, Walter. Or good comments. Yeah, and then that's true too, Corinne. The Black community, go read these books. Go read Rest is Resistance. Go read Where Do We Go From Here. Martin Luther King knew exactly what we're doing. I've been reading The Demon Haunted World by Carl Sagan, and there's so much in that. I mean, they know people have gone through this. Yeah, we need a Diogenes Club coffee mug. Yeah, we know that people are getting sexually assaulted in camps. So, I mean, the question though, and this is the question you can ask that protects you legally. You say, what assurance do we have that people are not being sexually assaulted in these detention centers, which I call concentration camps? And if you say that, you're not making an accusation, you're saying, I want an assurance that's not happening. So then they can't come after you. And this is a polite question because it's hard if you get in the presence of a politician and you have to ask a question. If you start coming off saying they're raping kids, if you say something like that, you're instantly dismissed. But you say it's reasonable to ask for the oversight and accountability and transparency. During those congressional hearings, they were saying this has been the most, she kept saying over and over, this has been the most transparent presidency. It's like, okay, you claim you're transparent. Let's see the files. Let's see the list of the people you've hired. Let's open up these detention centers, which are concentration camps, and see what's going on. And then they flip out. And you're asking reasonable questions. Yeah, they've removed the protections for trans people in concentration camps too. I saw a video where there was a video of somebody posted, it was an ICE agent said, I was sexually assaulted in one of these detention centers, and the ICE agent said, you loved it. And I've heard men make that kind of comment. And that's the mentality we're dealing with. And this gets back to Eric and the Diogenes Club and positive masculinity. Those of us who are men, if you're in positions where you hear other men talking like that, you need to stop it. You're going to need to find your girl dad energy and tell those guys to shut the fuck up and to not make disrespectful comments against women ever. And somebody needs to start saying that, somebody needs to start saying that to the president and all his little sycophants. A lot of things. I mean, if you do nothing else, just hold men accountable when they start spewing their misogynistic bullshit. I don't care if I know you do, Laura. I absolutely do. I'm talking to the men out there, and there's a lot of men who let that shit slide. You can't let that shit slide anymore because they're coming for your kids too. And that's a big one. We're continuing to get there. We're continuing to make progress. Thank you, Corinne. I've been writing a lot on the Epstein files, and it's been so difficult. But that's what I felt when I listened to Virginia Giuffre's book, and it connected dots for me though, because especially this part, because early on, her dad rapes her in that book, and then her dad turns her over to his friend who starts raping her. And you don't want to hear that. I mean, it's heartbreaking. And but what it did was, because all these abusive people always come at us out of nowhere when you're an innocent, and they make you feel guilt and they blame you, and then they're doing all these things to you. And just there's that awakening point when you realize that they're monstrous. And I had this moment in my life too where, it's like my dad would always ride me, and then I was just like, okay, I just lost respect for that person. And I no longer am working to get his approval. And so much of the United States is still looking for the approval. And that's why they turn to Massey and they're just like, oh, look at the one thing he did. And then they're disappointed when he betrays them. You have to accept what they are. And that's what America hasn't been able to do yet. Somebody posted a note the other day too. I think it was Amber. I think it was. Maybe not. But it was about how so many women watch these true crime shows. My wife does too. She'll sit, and this is how she relaxes. She watches these true crime shows. And it's about somebody who's been raped and murdered, and then they just track down the man who did it. And that's what every one of those shows is. And I think those shows are cathartic, especially to women, because it's the one of the only instances in our society where you see this concerted effort to hold evil men accountable and to expose the evil that they do. And they can't hide from the forensic evidence. They're going to deny, they're going to blubber, they're going to say, I've been completely exonerated. But once you demand transparency, you demand investigations, and you show through the scientific process. And that's why we have these evil people who are out there denying the scientific process because it knows that it's a threat to them. The people like, the guys in charge of our health. Well, we can't trust the experts. And they're like talking about vaccines. What they're trying to do is erode our faith in the scientific method because there's no evidence out there exists that exposes their guilt for crimes against humanity. I haven't read Pellicot's book. She was a woman who was, oh God, I should find it. We're obliged to read these things. Read Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl. The one I wrote today, the article I published just now, was about, yeah. I think there are a lot of, and Prince says women apparently watch those shows for a lot of complex psychological reasons. And I'm not claiming to know all those reasons, but I have seen that it comforts my wife somehow, and I think the reason for her is at least that. Having seen the evil that men do, and having seen how so often those crimes are covered up, while these men take these positions of power and authority where they lord over us and act like we never meet their standard, while in secret they're out raping children and stuff like that. I can see how a show like a true crime show where some of these men are finally brought, it's cathartic to see just a couple of them brought to accountability. And that's why too yesterday with Prince Andrew, we've been feeling the same thing. Yeah, but we had the book I was saying, Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl by was it Harriet Jacobs? And it's just astounding. This is a woman born into slavery who taught herself to read like Frederick Douglass did, which by itself is just an achievement you almost can't imagine the difficulty. People think, free solo up El Capitan was an achievement. Teaching yourself to read when people are forcing you to not be able to read. And then they were able to write these slave narratives and expose the reality and the atrocities of that era. We have an obligation to read that. Every kid in school should be reading that. The article I wrote today was how in the United States, go read this one. It's pretty good. It's on the other one. It's on I'd Rather Be Writing. But in the United States, I said, we teach American history like we're covering up the Epstein files. And there's this prevailing attitude in the United States through our whole history that we're not allowed to tell about the truth of the men. We're not allowed to tell the truth of the men that we are ordered to revere. We shouldn't have any of the founding fathers on our currency. Those men were depraved. They were awful men. They were child rapists. They were murderers. And we need to, what we should do is restore Mount Rushmore. I think what was it called? Four Grandfathers. It used to be a sacred mountain for the First Nations. We should restore it because we shouldn't have the faces of pedophiles carved into mountains in our country. We shouldn't. Need to take down all those Confederate statues. Those men were just repugnant and vile. Take them down. Teach the truth about how. And the only reason all that shit is allowed to endure is because we have this prevailing attitude that we have to just focus only on the good times and just completely disregard all the evil that the people did. And that's why, people keep giving their money to Adam Kinzinger. What the fuck? He was the guy who said That the illegal assault on Venezuela was a good call. Go look it up. He tweeted it. I posted it. And, it wasn't. That was murder. That was illegal. And for anybody to say that is just disgusting. And he's a guy with his platform has never, gone out. He could have gone to Minneapolis and recorded what ICE was doing. He could be demanding entry into, these concentration camps. Instead, he's writing a children's book because he's figuring out ways to enrich himself on what's going on today. And he's already rich. So support the people that got their backs against the wall who are trying to push the pendulum to a better society. All right, Amber. Okay, great. Was that your comment, Amber? I must have been. Yes, true crime is overwhelmingly viewed by women to make sense of abuse they've experienced, to see examples of justice done. Yep, my wife definitely takes it for catharsis. To see if they can solve the crime based on psych profile and evidence, sometimes another form of being able to predict who is dangerous, and just wanting to know the details of an unpredictable threat to try to prepare for it. I didn't want to say too much. I met my wife when she was already 30, so I know she's gone through some hard times too. And so I hope she's not watching true crimes because of me, but she does have an extreme sense of justice, and I love her for that. And she's, I think, the only person in my life I've met who, when she heard that I had this broken relationship with my dad, she never once told me that I needed to repair it. Almost everybody else I've always met has told me that I'm not going to be happy until I repair that relationship. And she's always been, nope, fuck them. I mean, once people show you who they are, believe them. And once you start living by that, oh my God, things just open up. Yeah, would never pay. Uh, yeah, 1970s. That's that love. I can't remember what it is, but the Supreme Court decision is love versus somebody, and that's the allowing. Race race doesn't exist, and that we had laws that prevented um, black people from marrying white people. Just awful. And it's not so long ago. That's the other thing. Yeah, thank you, Amber. Yeah, I mean, and I kind of understand that. I mean, we are so in need of some catharsis, some good news, and that's part of that need for good news is why people are so quick to just put their faith behind these people who've repeatedly betrayed us. And we have to break that habit. They leverage that. That's that love bombing thing again. I talked about that before. They love bomb us. So don't let people do one nice thing to you just so they can continue to abuse you. Instead, find the ways to go out and find the good people and be in those groups. Once you deliberately make the choice to expel toxicity from your group, things get good. And that doesn't mean people are gone forever. They have the option to change. I've done this. I've walked that path where I fixed things about myself and got back into groups that I'd been pushed out of, where you take accountability and you acknowledge the things you were doing wrong. And it was not the bad things in your mind are not there by your consent. They were put there. They were groomed into you that make all these processes possible. And bit by bit, we can overcome them and work them. Uh, yeah. Thank you. Yep. We found that we were talking about that before, Mary. So yeah, that was the time. I'm gonna wind up. I've gotten a little longer, but I missed you guys yesterday. I did miss you guys a lot. I like this. I like coming in and just doing this kind of informal talk, even though I'm kind of all over the place. I don't know what it sounds like to listen to the podcast afterward, but I've been trying to remember to read these comments as they come in. Lynn says my older sister lived in Pennsylvania in the late '60s, where there were still separate water fountains in the '60s. Ruby Bridges is what now? Is she 70 yet? I don't think she is. Yeah. Love you too, Eric. Thank you so much. And I missed you guys yesterday. I did miss you. Yes, it was stressful for me because the race was supposed to be on Wednesday and I had all these things planned for Thursday. And then I had to reschedule them all, including an interview with a congressional candidate. I felt horrible about that. I was sent to talk to Ellie Leonard yesterday and I felt horrible about that. And the Diogenes Club, but I changed them all. But it's like, even so, it's just the mental health days you guys got to take out, and physically exhausting yourself goes a long way. It goes a long way. It makes you feel a lot better. It helps just establish too, because we are right to be worried about things. We are right to take practical action, but don't be deceived. And we live in a world of deception. Don't be deceived by that mechanism that is designed. Ruby Bridges is 71. Yeah, it's astonishing. That's like a historical figure. You can go talk to Ruby Bridges. She should be on the news every day. What the fuck is wrong with our legacy media that they don't have her on the news every single day? I wonder if she'd want to talk to me. Oh, I would be honored. I would be honored if Ruby Bridges would come and talk to me. But they bury those stories. They bury them. And so this is the whole point. And it's Adam Kinzinger's not going to fucking invite Ruby Bridges onto a show. He should be having her on every day. I would love to talk to her. I'm with your wife. If your parent is terrible, screw them. And we need to, boy, that was been so hard for me to figure that out too. I took one whole day off. You have to. I crashed and had to take off 2 weeks. Good. Do it. Do whatever you have to do to stay in the fight. Oh, I'm sorry about the family emergency, Kren. Sorry about that. I hope everybody's okay now. No, I don't feel bad about it. It was just the thing about forcing myself to do it. And like I said, King Ray Vet had told me, you need to take a couple days off. And I'm like, okay, I'll do it. And that was a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. So I do. I missed you guys yesterday and I missed all those wonderful talks that I had scheduled, but they changed. They rescheduled the event. Yeah. Yes. Thank you, Chris. Yes. And just we have to affirm ourselves. We have to validate each other. And, when I was in my 20s and I was having a problem with my dad, it was so painful to be attacked all the time. Oh, that's your dad. You only have one. And it's like, you don't know nothing. You didn't even ask me what he did to me, but you're just assuming that I'm in the wrong somehow. And so, yeah, we need these moments in these spaces like this. We need these moments in these spaces like this where we can validate each other and we can urge ourselves to take rest and support each other. Like I've been saying, Eric was doing that. He's so kind to me, and all the people all you guys are so kind. Um, I don't see who this refers to, so I'll just leave that. Yeah, Ruby Bridges. Yeah, I would love to talk to Ruby Bridges. Yeah, there's living history all around us. I mean, all the book burners can't erase all the minds of the people that were there and remembered, and so all we have to do is talk to them and keep talking. All right. Think that's good for today. That's good now. I appreciate all you guys. God, it's so good to see you guys again. I don't know if I'll be on tomorrow or not. There's some stuff going on, but if I got a moment in the morning and the kids are still sleeping, maybe I'll jump on and say hi. I just kind of like doing this, taking all the questions. It's nice seeing all you guys. So yeah, go and take some rest today, you guys. That's your assignment. It can be a nap, it can be a walk. Take a few hours for yourself, please do, and just give yourself enough distance so you stop being pestered. So you stop being pestered by all those things you can't control. Don't be pestered by them. Separate from them. And it's funny how when you take a couple hours, you realize, like that deal where I thought I'd broken my radiator, and then it was like that was just a complete fabrication. But that stress I felt from that was real, and I carried that with me for a while until I was able to finally forget about it. And if you just give yourself that space, that's the way our brains work. We have to know how our brains work. Yeah. Get a nice massage. Maybe I'll go for a swim works pretty good. You know what works great is just another ski, but I feel pretty good. I did the homework and I got in pretty decent shape. So one more year and I can hopefully keep up with my kids for another year. All right, let me leave it. I keep threatening to leave and I keep sticking on. I almost pulled out my headset. Oh, I love you all. You guys are wonderful. And yes, thanks for being here. Enjoy it and take some rest today. You deserve it. And we'll keep going. Keep sending me your questions. Keep showing up. Love to see you all. And yeah, we'll just keep talking. We'll keep rolling. And we are winning. And it's getting easier and easier to see that we are winning. So celebrate every victory, even as we continue to go. Every mile, if you're doing a marathon, you should have joy for every mile because you've done something. All right. Thank you. Series of victories. Love you all. Let's all rise together. Bye-bye.